There we go. Hey, folks, Bunk here, Bunkman Hangouts. Here today with a former Navy aircrew elf, and he'll explain that in a moment why he's called V12. And before I forget, please like, subscribe, because I will forget by the end of the video. So today, I thought it important to talk to V12 about his experience as a Navy aircrewman, because it's something that's rarely talked about. The backbone of the United States naval aviation is guys and girls like him who, work at a very difficult job under difficult circumstances, especially i.e. meaning working from the carrier day and night. And we hear about SF types on the front line. We hear about fighter pilots, that sort of thing. But I thought I'd bring him on board and we hear a little bit about him and what motivated him to become a naval aircrewman and just listen to his story. So I'll turn it over to you, V12. You can just start, hey, man, where you were born and just, make it brief and then go into why you went in the Navy and why you chose to be an aircrewman.
Sure thing. Thanks for having me, Chris.
Yeah, brother.
So I'm from Louisiana. My grandfather did he worked for the FAA for about 30 years with the ILS systems. He would take me with him to his work every once in a while. So that I guess there is where my love for aviation started. From there, after high school, I stayed working at a cabinet shop for a year and just wanted to do more. And I was going to join the Air Force, but they couldn't guarantee me a job to fly. The Navy recruiter was outside, said, hey, man, what I got to do to get you to join? And I said, man, you put me flying, I'll sign the paperwork right now.
Good on Navy.
That's what I did.
Yeah, awesome. And so, so Navy did, the Army ever come into, play or anything else, or just because the recruiter was standing outside and he's like, hey, man, come on over here. We can get you flying.
Well, I've known a couple of people in the Army, but my grandfather was in the Air Force. I've had two cousins that were in the Navy. One was a CB, another one worked on the Prowlers, I believe.
Okay.
So there's more, I would say, Navy Air Force experience.
Gotcha. All right. Awesome. So you join the Navy and then you go off to basic training, which is that 6 weeks, 8 weeks?
I want to say it was probably 8 weeks.
About 8 weeks. Okay. It's been a while. That was early 2000s, right?
Yeah.
Just post 9/11. 2001.
2001.
Okay. All right. Right around 9/11. Okay. So you go to basic training and you said you had a contract, right? So you were going to go basically be an air crewman.
Correct. Yes.
Okay.
In order for me to sign on, it was part of my contract to be a crewman. And then I also had a bonus at the time. So I signed 2 extra years because of the training and because of the bonus.
Was that 6 years total?
Yes. Which in actuality, it was just taken off of the reserve time that you would do once you get out.
Gotcha. Okay. All right.
So yeah, from there, boot camp, I went to Aircrew School. I want to say that was about 6 weeks, depending on if the class was ready to start. You would get put on hold.
Okay. And for those who don't know, Aircrew School, what do you guys do?
Man, we don't walk.
Yeah.
Pretty much run, swim, exercise all day, every day. Mm-hmm. You have to earn your respect back, if you will.
Okay.
So what I mean by that is you have to do certain things to get your freedom back, your privilege back to wear civilian clothes or to go off of base. Oh,
gotcha. Okay.
So
I remember when I was I was 01 ensign and I'm down in Pensacola and, doing API. And, I used to see you guys out there and they were working you hard, man. It was like a mini OCS. You guys were doing push-ups and flutter kicks. And we stood out there for formation one day and I don't know, it was cold and it was December and the wind coming off the bay. And we're all, and you guys are out in just yellow shirts and shorts, man, doing push-ups and getting it on. So I was like, wow, that's pretty impressive.
I kind of feel bad for you guys because we could hear the hollering all the time.
Yeah, right. But it's that's where all aviators, be it pilots, NFOs, or aircrew, we all start there, man.
Yep.
And now, when you finished Aircrew School, did you get your wings at that point, or do you have to go elsewhere to get wings?
So after Aircrew School, I went to A school, learned about aviation structural mechanic, which is basically the body repair shop for airplanes versus cars.
Yeah. We
learned how to operate and the basic functions of flights, flight status, how to maintain it, tools. From there, I went to the Fleet Replacement Squadron, VAW 120, and did flight school there.
And they basically taught you how to be an air crewman. They, was like, hey, here's how you do it, right? And then you'll go to the fleet at that point, and you start doing what you learn, correct?
Yeah, we the blue pill, the big book.
Yeah, they tops. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay,
we learn about that, and then you put it to work whenever you're flying.
right,
And you have a lot of new people that never flown before,
right.
um, that are in there as well. People that never swim. It's shocking to see as well too. Sorry.
Yeah, like folks, they join the Navy and they're like, I have no idea how to swim. Never been around water. And also, I mean, if you're going to be air crew, I mean, and that this is the same for pilots too. We had guys who had never flown, been in an aircraft ever, and so they get in and some like it and some don't, that sort of thing. And that's why they had what we talked about earlier was DOR, drop on request. And that's an avenue. If flying's not for you, that's a way to go. And just to go back real quick, you were your rate was an AM, correct?
Yes.
Airframer. Okay.
Yeah.
Roger
Airframer,
that. Okay.
hydraulics, the wheels, brakes, paint,
All right.
the screw, anything, panels,
Okay. And
filters.
then at some point you went to SEER school, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I did.
And did you do SEER school up in Maine?
Yes, I did. Yep, sure did.
Yeah. What
Did that
time
in
of year?
December.
In December?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
we.
when I went. Yeah. It's
Is it
cold, man. Yeah. It was, yeah. Do you remember it's like 3, 4 feet of snow and they're doing their thing and not stuff we can really talk about, but it's just SEER school was not fun as you recall. Do you remember? So you had a certificate and so basically they're like, don't lose this certificate because if you do, and they can't prove you've been to it, you may have to go to it again. And I made like 50 of those things. So I'm never going back
really?
to SEER school. Yeah. I had copies. I don't know where they are now, but I had copies the longest time. So I'm like, I'm not going back, never doing that again.
Yeah.
All right. So then you go from Video 120 to VRC 30. And,
Yes.
and so how was that experience?
Well, see, so you asked about my wings, and that's where I
Yeah,
got my
that's
wings
right.
at was
Okay.
VAW 120,
Okay.
which I graduated with 29 hours from
Okay.
there.
All
Uh,
right.
I got to VRC 30, I think in May or June
Okay.
of
June of,
2002.
okay.
And from there, I started doing the same process again, checking in and learning what I already knew, but now it's not for real. You know,
Right.
this is like no crap. We're doing it. We're flying. We're
Yeah.
going.
You start doing the real mission and, for those that don't know, the C-2 Greyhound basically will deploy with 2 aircraft for deployment, but also anytime a carrier is off the coast of SoCal, VRC 30 was West Coast out of San Diego, we would hit the carrier. So that would mean you had a lot of cargo, passengers, folks to learn kind of on the job training, even though you've been trained, really where you learn to get the experience is doing that sort of stuff, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's no longer like, hey, this is your teammate that you're working with anymore. It's just like, hey, this
Right.
is people, and this is the
Right.
public or actors, VIP, somebody, or
Yeah. Yep.
eggs. It could be 8,000 pounds of eggs like we did one time.
Yep. It could be all sorts of things, man.
Yeah.
Post 9/11, we were out and this on the Carl Benson, and I got a call one night. It's like 2 a.m. in the morning, and my phone's ringing like, "Hey, Bunk, we need to launch early. The admiral was having a party, and they needed fresh strawberries." That was the mission for that day. That was what I got 4 hours of sleep on, so that we could go to Bahrain and pick up fresh strawberries for his the admiral's party. I mean, that stuff. It happens, and
I mean, did you get some strawberries at least?
what? I don't like strawberries, so no,
Okay.
I didn't get any. Man,
Yeah. I asked because you always hear about like the good food, like on
right,
holidays. And
right,
then there's like 3,000 people in line, and you're like, by the time you get there, there's no turkey or ham.
exactly. The time you get up there, you're like, well, that's all gone. But of course, as COD crew, we stayed on the beach a lot and logistics hubs offshore, so we kind of lived a good life. And if you remember, I think your first deployment was I was your OIC, and your second, I think. So
My first deployment was on the
no,
Constellation.
the Connie. So I was not your OIC yet. Okay, that's right.
Was Justin was there,
Yeah. Okay.
Antonola,
Mhm.
and
That was an
that's
O2.
right.
Yeah.
That was
Yeah.
whenever I checked into the squadron. They were getting ready
Okay.
to go.
Gotcha.
The 9/11 happened when I was in A school,
Okay.
and it was we were at war obviously, but
Right.
we were going through, the training was done. I checked in as a CT2C, When I came back from my first deployment, I had over 200 hours, and I came back as a CTCC, which is
Okay,
a
great,
crew
man.
chief, carrier transport crew chief.
So then, it was your time now to train guys to kind of,
Correct.
get them up to speed and what have you. And when we deployed, I think it was we did the tsunami relief, correct?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
okay. And we stayed at a nice hotel, if you recall, downtown Singapore. And
Yeah.
but man,
I
did we
wasn't
work
there
our
very
butts
much.
off. No, no, there's a, when the air wing thinks of us, they're like, hey man, those guys are out partying every night, blah, blah, blah. No, I mean, we're usually exhausted and we're flying. And that we were flying like 24/7, if you recall. We ended up having four. I was the OIC of four C2s because they flew two more down for the tsunami relief. And, we were just, oh man, we were going all the time. I remember one time, and I think sister was the crew chief on this one. And so we launched out of Singapore, and dude, I'm exhausted. I'm so tired. And we're going up to the carrier, and I think it was like a 3-hour flight. And I had him come up to the cockpit, and I went in the cargo cage and I slept, with the other guy. I said, there's an issue, let me know, man. And then when we launched from the carrier to go to Thailand, then the other pilot, he went in the cargo cage, and slept.
Yeah.
So
It's
yeah,
definitely some long. It's definitely some long hours, and
yeah,
it's just like, what are you going to do? It's a
right.
it's a
I
tight
mean,
space to be walking around in as well. Like, you can't just
right,
get up and
yeah.
walk about the cabin.
Yeah, and I'm going to show some pictures here of the inside of a cod with the seats, and there's something in there. There's a cargo cage that's inside the C2, and so all the heavy stuff, all the cargo goes inside that cage, and so the air crew have to put it together. And if you think about these beams, they had these big steel beams. I think they were steel, and they would build like a set of two. So if you're launching off the carrier, everything comes back, and so they have to make sure that hey, stuff doesn't shift, meaning the center of gravity. And there's a video of 1970 of C2 launch off the carrier. It had a ship's gen. It shifts. I don't know if they had cargo cage at the time, but it shifts back and it goes vertical. Hammerheads at the top, when it ran at airspeed and then hit the water and killed everyone on board. So it was, and the trust that I had to have in you guys, and I had 100% trust, man, because, I'm like, hey, they know what they're doing. I may come in to look and go, okay, it looks good to me, and you would bring the weight and balance up and go, hey, sir, here you go. And I'm like, okay, I hope, that this is the correct stuff. And I mean, in my 1,709 hour C2, you guys always had 100% correct, man. So, and of course,
Thank you.
we develop a relationship because, pilot and air crew. And I know we had talked a little bit about ends up being maybe some hostility
A little
between you
jealousy.
guys or yeah, or jealousy between the maintenance and admin types because, we're part of the crew, we're flying together and we're just, always together. And so it creates a bond that we didn't have with our maintenance guys, if that makes sense.
But they used to say too, like, a bitchin' sailor's a happy sailor too.
It's
But
true. I mean, that's
a
same
lot
with
of
an aviator. Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
I would say it was there because, yes, we were closer to the officers more
yeah.
than the enlisted, and I don't know if other people didn't have the understanding of why. Sometimes I guess they thought it was more like promotion deals or whatnot. But
Yeah.
you
Maybe. I mean,
know,
that's a thought. Yeah.
from my experience, like you were saying, yeah, we stayed on the beach and we stayed in these places, and I want to say there was a darn good reason why. Because for that tsunami relief, within a month, I had 100 hours of flight
Yeah.
hours,
Yeah.
and I was supposed to take a break,
Right.
but there
Right.
was no break.
It was done, man. Yeah. We were just
So
flying
that
nonstop.
hotel and the amenities were very comforting to go back to relax for one, because I was cramped in that seat or the
Yep.
ramp. That was
Oh,
my
yeah.
break. You know, there was sometimes there was no food or
Yeah.
nothing to drink, no
Yeah.
restrooms. The but we did that together. That the
Right.
other 40 to 100 other people, 3,000 other people don't experience.
Right. Yeah. I mean, the ship may have gotten, some hostility and jealousy as well that, hey, man, these guys, like I said, are partying up. That wasn't always the case. I mean, I wish it were, and you get back, you're exhausted. And it's like, okay, last thing I want to do is go out and drink and then have to get up early in the morning and fly. I just can't do that. And normally, and of course, being the OIC, I was always dealing with issues, all the time. So, yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
because I
Well,
would I would work even when I was flying or if I wasn't flying. It was very important to me to make sure that the maintenance was ready the next day. So
Right.
I would come back from landing or doing our hits, and then y'all would take off. I'm taking off, I mean, for the day. And I would work with night check sometimes because they would ask about the gripes.
Right.
We listed on ICS. What did the pilot do? What did they say? Like, how did it react? So
Right.
they would come to us for that too. And man, I would want to make sure it was right for one, because you're in it, somebody else is in it, or I might take that plane, you
Right.
know?
Yeah.
So that was there too. And yeah, you talk about the trust, we only saw each other, I would say, on a good flight would be when we would pre-flight and then we would land for like the day. That would
Right.
be, hey, everything went good.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and yeah, I was going to ask you because I know you have some back problems, and this is a constant theme with pilots and air crew, right? From carrier landings, it's because you hit like a ton of shit, and sometimes you hit harder than other times. Then you have FCOPs, fuel carrier landing practice, and so I had over 600 carrier landings, and not, 2,000 FCLPs, and my back is bad. How is your back? Was it? Do you think any of the damage to your back was caused from that?
I looked into it as well.
Hmm.
And man, I would love to say yes. But as with anything, we can't really 100% guarantee.
Right.
But the positions that we would be in,
Mhm.
whether it be holding a tire up,
Yeah,
carrying toolboxes down the ladder well because ship's company didn't want to help us out with the elevator.
that's right. Yeah.
We're carrying a 150-pound toolbox or a
Yep.
200 something tire up 3 ladder wells.
Yep.
That's what I did.
Yeah.
On top of moving 12 million pounds of cargo, I think, in my 3.5 years at VRC.
It's some serious manual labor, and on the
Yes.
Connie, if you remember, they had the giant like escalators,
Yes.
but
Yes.
they wouldn't turn on for you guys at times. I
No.
mean, I mean, they were like, no, you just carry it vertically up the stairs, and that takes a toll on your body, and that's
Yes.
why you have physical standards that you got to meet, right? And because you guys were, and here's the thing is that we had discussed this. The Air Force, when they build their transport, be it a C-17, C-130, they build it with cargo in mind. They've got rollers and they make it user friendly. It's almost like the Navy said, hey, through Grumman, we're going to build a cargo plane. And it was a tough plane, but just it
Yeah.
was an afterthought, like, oh, okay, and you're going to load cargo in it, but we're
Yeah.
not going
Through
to make
this
it
little bitty
easy.
doorway.
Yeah, exactly. And we're, there's the ramp, but you're gonna have to undo the seats, and you just have to carry that shit. There's no rolling stuff in and out. I mean, it just they didn't make it easy. And
You also
yeah,
had the crossbars.
I tried the crossbars.
So
Yeah,
you had the life rafts, which were either just as low as the crossbars or at
yeah,
the same height. And
yeah.
I can't tell you how many times I have walked into that cross beam. I think I can't remember his name, but he had to have stitches underneath his
Oh,
nose
because he hits hard. Yeah, yeah,
because it opened with the beams.
yep. And it's it the C-2 is a large aircraft for the aircraft carrier, but it's a small cargo plane, and there's not a lot of room back there. And I think folks, when it's their first time, they go into it and they're like, "What is this?" There's two windows. There's two small windows, and I'll put a picture in there. And there's two tiny windows, one on each side, and it's
Porthole.
dark in there. Yeah. And the aircraft, when you get up on the catapult, it's when we go full power, that whole thing is shaking. And I'm sure you can see the faces on some of the people when you turn to look back or turn to look next to you. Probably you're like, what's that look? Fear, because it
Yeah.
yeah, I mean,
That's a good point, Chris, because I don't know if I'm the only crewman or not, but during the cat shots, I
mhm,
would turn my head sometimes, as as not right before we would take the cat, but sometimes as we were doing it, I would turn my head like this, one just to make sure that nobody was going to come out or something was
yeah,
coming our way. I don't know if everybody did it, but it's
yeah,
because you can't see it. Everything is
right,
behind you. You're
yep. Because you guys
not going to see it. You'll feel it.
both you sat very aft to the aircraft, right? So
Yes.
both the air crew, yeah, okay.
Yep.
And
And I think I just remembered we were privileged enough as aircrew to wear brown boots.
Yeah. That's
We
well,
were
you're
also
aviators,
the
man.
only enlisted that were allowed to
Yeah.
wear brown boots. So
Yep.
we got some heat for that too because
I'm sure.
you're enlisted
Yeah.
but according to the flight rules, we have to, you
Yeah.
know. So
Yeah.
sorry.
I mean, you had the option and being, brown shoes and, aviators. That's what we wore. I wore my khakis, brown shoes, and I wore brown boots as well. And, it is what it is, man.
Right.
So,
Yep.
yeah, I mean, and again, I nothing but respect for the maintenance. Maintainers kept those aircraft flying. And they were getting old. I mean, there's only what a dozen to 14 left now, and then the V-22 is taken over, or it's taken over on the West Coast already. And so there's no more traps, cats. Now it's all landing vertically, but there's still air crewmen, and you guys, I bet you're still hauling, the
Yeah.
trash from down inside the carrier up and into that thing, right?
Yeah.
And
And from
yeah, go
the
on.
maintainer's perspective too, a lot of them had a lot of pride once they
Yeah,
saw that cod take off, or they would
sure.
hear the
Yeah,
props
yeah.
coming in, and then there goes the carrier brake. Maintainers, crewmen, I don't care who you are. You worked on that aircraft, you hear it. There's a
They love to
sense in
see
you
it.
that,
Yep.
yeah,
Yeah.
yes, a lot of
Yeah.
pride for those people too. Everybody in that community.
Yeah, absolutely. And we would like my last deployment. I mean, 90% plus. I mean, sortie rate. I mean, they kept these planes flying, and it's not like we got brand new aircraft, brand new parts. Man, we were at the tail of the tiger at the very end of the supply chain,
Yes.
and the ship didn't always treat us nicely, but when they needed something, man, then they would kind of like kiss our ass, like, oh yeah, hey, can you guys do this for us? And we always, for the most part, we push to get the mission done. And that's what was great about the community. Not necessarily from a pilot's perspective. The airplane was the thunder pig. It wasn't fun to fly. It was difficult to fly at the boat, but the people that kept it flying. And then, of course, my air crew, and we bonded. And when I was instructor at BD 120, the folks that would start the aircraft, the plane captains and whatnot, a lot of them were from E2 squadrons, and they would tell me that they prefer to launch the C2 guys because we were much more laid back. And
Oh yeah.
I think the reason being is because we were with air crew, enlisted air crew, and we were very fond of our crew, and so we treated them a bit differently, I think.
The VRC-30 to me, and it's only because I've been there for that long.
Yeah,
To me, it was more of a family. If people can understand this, which regular civilians can't, but
yeah,
no, nothing harming. I'm just saying the relationship that we developed, VRC-30 to me has been more of a family than my own family, personal. You know, the skipper when I checked in, he was like, "Hey, how you doing?" And I was like, "I'm fine." I was like, "I just got back here and my truck broke down." I was like, "I'm out of money." I think it was on a Saturday or something, and he gave me $100.
that was Joe
And he
DeMarco.
was, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, he was good. He was a good man. Yeah,
yeah. Monday morning, forgot who it was. The AZ came up, and he was like, "Hey, the CO is looking for you." And I was like, "Oh shit, man, what did I do?" You know. And he was like, "Just making sure that everything was taken care of." I got checked in, and from that moment to the reunion was just phenomenal.
yeah. Well,
Hard time.
he was the type of
Yeah.
skipper that took care of his people. I mean, he actually cared, and he was also the guy who never wanted to be the skipper of a con squadron, right? And sometimes the
Really?
best leaders are those who are forced into it. Yeah, and he hit all the wickets and becomes this con skipper. And he was my opso, and I was going through flight school, BT4, and he was like, I don't want to be a con skipper. That's not, or E2. He just didn't want that, but he ends up becoming one. And and that's the example that he set, and so that was great. And yeah, I mean, I look fondly upon my VRC 30 days, both tours. It was fantastic, and the enlisted folks were fantastic. And I didn't, was unable to make the what was it? Was that the retirement of the
Sundown?
squadron?
Yeah, the sundown.
Okay, okay, sundown. Yeah, yeah. And if you notice in the movie Top Gun Maverick, their ready room, that was the VRC 30 ready room they were using, man.
I have a picture of my family and
Mhm.
myself behind the flag. So
Oh,
whenever
do
that
you?
big flag is right there,
Oh yeah, and
yeah,
there was a cod behind it too, and and then they're inside of our old ready room, and I'm like, okay, man, that's pretty cool. And it brings back memories and nothing but good memories. So
Yes. Yeah.
yeah, man, that's awesome. And so you ended up getting out of the Navy in 2007 at
Yes.
the end of your okay.
Yeah. I went back to the place where I first worked at prior to my military. Jumped around here and there, just can't really find something that really fits that job anymore, you know.
Right. Yeah.
But putting the past in the past. I'm in college right now. I
Fantastic.
had dropped out a couple years back.
Are you
Got
using your
accepted.
GI Bill?
No, my GI Bill expired last year.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. It has a time limit now.
Yeah. So I enrolled by myself and I got added to, or I finally got accepted to a VR&E program. I'm still having back issues. My back locks up. Whether I'm taking clothes out of the dryer, putting them in the washing machine, or brushing my teeth, as
Mhm.
simple as bending down, put my shoe on.
Is the VA taking care of you?
My back issues are secondary. They have me as first. My primary is PTSD, but
Okay. But they are
that's
taking care of you with that then as well?
yeah.
Yeah.
Took about 16 years, but
Yeah. I mean, they're coming around, man. It's taking time. They used to be a lot worse, and now it seems that they're doing better by veterans, and they understand that trauma isn't just combat. There are other things that happen that can cause trauma, right? In this, and I think the military as a whole is understanding that, and the VA is understanding that. So,
yeah.
yeah,
The past,
that's fantastic to hear, man. And you're married now, I think. And
yes, I'm married. I have 3 kids. They're they're uh, they're a handful, and
yeah,
they're also great too.
yeah,
But
as kids
you
can
know,
be, man.
yeah, it's
So
my turn.
yeah, dude, I got you, man. So
Forgive,
yeah,
you know.
but well, brother, thank you for talking to me. Thank you for coming on. And my channel is new. I'm trying to get it to grow. And this is the primary reason why I started, because I want to talk to veterans, from all walks of life in the U.S. military, not just Navy pilots and not just SF guys, that sort of thing. And maybe it won't be popular, maybe it might, but we'll see.
Not
And
me knows.
yeah, who knows? But I'm just going to keep going, man. So I appreciate you coming on. And for those who made it towards the end, thank you, and like, subscribe. And if you have any questions, you can post them in the comments. Otherwise, anything else, brother?
Chris, thank you for having me, and I've been waiting to talk to you for quite some time about this.
Yeah, and I had mentioned a while back, I know, and I hadn't forgotten, but it just took me a long time to get this started and to kickstart it, and it was always bouncing around the back of my mind. But here I am, and like I've said before, outside of my comfort zone, man. And so
Yeah,
it's tough
got to
sometimes.
keep going.
Yeah, yeah,
Art is outside my comfort zone, and I keep going more and more for it.
awesome, man.
That's what's helping me out with my
Yeah,
that, and traveling helps me out a lot.
yeah. Okay, all right, brother. Well, good seeing you, man, and we will, we'll talk to you again. See you shortly. All right, brother. Bunk out.